Hey, we are live. Welcome everyone to another edition of our weekly Wednesday Lunch and Learn, where we get to learn from different markets all across the country to see what's going on outside of the Bay Area. Today we have, I guess, Christine times two today, which happens to be perfect timing. So it's perfect timing there. So let's just jump right into it. Let's have some brief introductions. Christine, Chau, why don't you go first in terms of your background, how long you've been in the business, and what you did actually before real estate.
Okay. My name is Christine Chau. I'm from Austin, Texas, and been a real estate broker for 16 years, been licensed for 18 years. And so, wow, I think I kind of told you my age, huh?
Oh, you're working since middle school. Yes.
Practically, yeah. So my dad got me into real estate. My family has always owned restaurants. And so, of course, when we get here, in 79, my parents can't speak English. And so at a young age, I was looking at contracts, not knowing what to do. Parents can't read English or speak English. And so I was negotiating contracts. And back then, it was much easier, right? I mean, the contract is like a page long. You do a handshake. They paid me in cash, probably in a shopping bag or something. Totally not what we're going to do these days, right? And then, so I had that experience. And then, we opened a couple of restaurants. My dad asked me to take a break. And so during that break, he asked me to get into real estate because at that time, he was like, you'd like to drive a nice car, wear nice clothes, and talk to people because that's all it takes, right? And so he got me to real estate, and I love it. I can't imagine doing anything else. So yeah, that's my story.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And Christina and Daniel, husband and wife team. So please share a little of the backstory.
Okay, I'll go first. So I'm Christine Morgan. We're located in Orange County, California. So we live in a little beach town called Costa Mesa. It borders between Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, and Irvine. So we've been here for over a decade now, 11 to 12 years. And we're both born and raised in Orange County, never really left Orange County. I joined real estate actually right out of graduating from UC Irvine. And both of my parents were also in the real estate industry. So it was pretty natural for me to jump right into real estate as well. I saw just the liberty they had and they were able to stay home and kind of man their own schedules while having young kids. So growing up, it was all something I really wanted to pursue. So I've been in real estate now for 14 years. I love it. I can't imagine doing anything else either. It's, being able to just have different experiences with every sale that we do and all the people that we get to meet and eventually become good friends with and, have a great referral network base here. It's pretty incredible.
So my name is Daniel Morgan, Christine's husband. I have a little bit of different background and a little bit different view of the market. I spent 15 years in institutional real estate investment and development and management. I worked on a couple big deals up in your neck of the woods, Spencer, Hunters Point and Treasure Island, Candlestick Park with 5 Point Communities. I was one of the original employees there. After that, a couple years later, after the financial crisis, I got hired by Lehman Brothers bankruptcy estate to unwind some of their more complicated assets on the West Coast. Started buying some apartments, started doing a bunch of deals on our own account with partners, and then we started a property management company to oversee those investments. So that's kind of the cliff notes of my background. And we don't really work together, but we have some common clients and some common crossover, but yeah.
Interesting. And so Daniel, how long have you been in the residential property management space, since it sounds like there's different phases of your career so far?
Yeah, so we started managing residential properties probably 6 years ago. After we bought some apartments, we had some managers that were just awful. I caught someone stealing quarters from me. If you're going to steal quarters, I'm sure you're doing things worse than stealing quarters. Some of our investors asked us to start kind of doing our own management and then do a lot for her clients as well as our own deals and some other third-party clients as well.
Oh, interesting. That's very nice because Christine Chau also does property management too.
Yeah.
So that's really good to hear. So I'd love to just jump into that specific aspect for both sides.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of clearly news from an unemployment perspective, but what's also interesting is there is a lot of stimulus to help them. So from what you guys have seen so far with your portfolio for your clients or yourself, is there much of a net impact, or is it kind of evens out and might be even better for some people? Like Christine, Chau, why don't you go first with Austin?
Sure. And Daniel, my story was kind of similar to yours too. I about 6 years too into property management, and my clients asked, if I buy it, would you manage it? So that's how I kind of grew my portfolio. But I think, when all this started happening with the whole COVID and the whole scare, I kind of started communicating with my tenants right away. I knew a lot of them were probably going to lose jobs. My family owns a restaurant, and so I knew that whole part was happening. And so I was already contacting them. We manage about 122 doors. So we called all of them. I had my assistants get on the phone with them and just communicate with them and make them feel comfortable, and, let them know that, if they can't make their rents, please let me know right away so I can inform my clients to, hey, you need to make your mortgage, right? And so, I think we're really fortunate. I haven't had a lot of really bad cases yet. I'd have one eviction, but it wasn't because they weren't paying rent because of the situation, but because they're behind rents a few months ago, right? But yeah, I think being good communications with them was the key for us. And, I've waived all late fees, right? If they, a couple $100 short, me as a company, I just waived it just so we can get caught up and move on. And so I think there's protections, but yeah, I think being good communications, yeah.
And for Texas, is there any changes for eviction procedures? Because I know in California there is, but is there any changes there?
Yeah, for the governor, there was a couple of months where they said that no evictions. And so for 2 months, if the tenants couldn't pay for whatever reason, there was no evictions. But now I think things are opening up, so there are protections for that. But it's still, it's an issue, right? Because I think the protection has to protect the tenants and the landlord too, because a lot of landlords won't be able to make it without 2-3 months of not having rent. So,
Got it. And Christina and Daniel, how about you guys from how you have seen it play out?
So we manage everything from condo to apartments, and even a couple of retail centers and some commercial stuff. I'll start with the residential side. We're at essentially 100% collections. Our communication efforts started out reaching out to the landlords pre the shutdown, telling them, hey, this is coming, and here are what you need. Here are the potential things that we see happening. Hold reserves, be prepared for the worst case scenario. As Christine said, and as I believe you mentioned, with some of the stimulus, we haven't seen that. But Disneyland's, by way of example, one of the largest employers in Orange County. All of their employees are furloughed or laid off. They're currently getting, an extra $600 a month through the CARES Act, and that expires at the end of July. So we're still telling our people, our owners, we're not through this yet. We're kind of cautiously optimistically hoping that August and September are okay. That's when I think we're gonna actually start seeing the real pain. But if there is pain, it depends if there's a fourth round of the CARES Act or not, and how that pans out. On the commercial side, it's been an absolute bloodbath. It's been 40 to 60% of tenants not paying rent, depending on the use. In certain spaces, there's still not the same protections for the landlord and mortgage forbearance with a life company through for a retail center is much harder to pull off than it is for a single family homeowner. So luckily we have really well capitalized clients, and we're able to weather the storm. Our approach with how we deal with the tenants is slightly different. Number one, we try to be completely empathetic and work with them however possible. But we have found in the past with situations, there's never been a situation like this, but in situations that are most similar to this, when you say, hey, if you need help, ask for it, people will ask for help, even when it's not necessarily needed. So we kind of intentionally put our heads in the sand regarding non-payment. I probably received 10% of my tenants asking for relief because there was this eviction moratorium. So we said, hey, we're happy to work with you. Just please document your hardship so that we can take that back to the ownership and show them that this hardship's real. And then usually within like 15 minutes, they paid their rent. So there's some people who are trying to be opportunistic, but for the most part, everyone's been very, pleasant to work with. We've been working hand in hand with our commercial clients, helping them try to get PPP loans, the EIL grants, and the like, just to help them kind of carry themselves on. But I don't think we're through the woods yet. We'll see what August and September looks like, but we're cautiously optimistic that it's going to be okay because people they have time to prepare for that.
So a lot of people on the outside are reading the headline articles, whether it's they can't afford to pay their monthly expenses. Now, do you see in the commercial space that the actual rent itself is going to be lowered, or is it still too early, or they're not willing to do that this early?
I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis. I've got one retail center in particular where the property's pretty well positioned for this. It's about 40,000 square feet. Kaiser Permanente takes up 7,000 of it. And we have a bunch of restaurants that are takeout restaurants. Like, how better positioned could you possibly be? It's going to, within that properties, there's some uses that probably don't make sense in the future. And there's some uses that are absolutely people that we want to have. And they've been great tenants with great character. If people are making the efforts to try to work through stuff, we're going to work with them to make sure that their business exists on the other side of this. Some businesses, I have a nail salon that's reached out and said, hey, we're worried about our business in the future. If we can understand how your business might be changed, with different restrictions going forward. So that's something that we'll look at on a case-by-case basis. But we've got another guy he's an insurance company. His business really hasn't been impacted. People still need car insurance. They still need home insurance. So if there's a reasonable reason to support rent abatement, we'll take a look at it. For the most part, we're going to be looking at rent deferment, and we're going to be looking to our tenants to access all grants and federal money and state money first, and then once those resources have been fully utilized or tapped out and not available, then we'll have the conversation. So it's a little premature, I think, to have those conversations with most of our tenants.
Interesting. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. And so, Christine, Chau, can you share just in terms of a lot of things are starting to open up, especially here in California.
Sure.
And so can you share, what was the situation like from a real estate perspective, like of this even being able to see houses back in mid-March, and what is it like now? Is it wide open? Where are things in Austin?
Well, I mean, right now we're in phase 2, right? At the beginning, when shelter in place for us was in the middle of like March 17th. And so for a couple of weeks, real estate wasn't essential. And so, there was no open houses, there was no showings. And then luckily, for me, it was a couple of weeks. To me, that's kind of a short term, but the governor had opened it up, deemed were essential, and just slowly, started making changes. And so, during the whole month of April, it was just like COVID month, right? There's no showings. People were in panic. They didn't know how to, cope with it. We didn't know how to deal with it, right? So a lot of properties went temporary off market or was withdrawn. A lot of people were afraid of the days in the market being being negative. And so, but now that, phase 2 is opening up, the market's super hot in Austin right now, multiple offers. It's slowly getting back to business, back to the norm. So.
Nice. Interesting. And Christine Morgan?
Hello.
Yeah, related to like how has things opened up in Orange County in general, and are there different, because LA is so big, are there different counties that are actually more aggressive than others, or is it all kind of following the same protocols?
I would say it's all.
No.
What do you think LA County
is much more conservative in their opening up.
Oh, wow.
So they're much slower. They've also been hit a lot harder, and I know that's market to market. Right. We've got a good friend who's a nurse in the South Bay, and it's a really hard hit demographic. And then we've got a friend whose wife is a nurse at Cedars, and it's not been as bad there. but overall, LA is being slower. Orange County, San Diego are about, I think, neck and neck in how they're opening up. Riverside is a little bit is the same as us. They open up salons as well today.
But in terms of the actual like changes in the real estate dynamic and what we saw, same thing with, I'm sure what Christine said is in April, the first 3 weeks, totally dead. No one was going out. No one was doing any showings. Listings were getting put on hold right and left. And then now that I think people are more comfortable going out again, masked up. I mean, we have obviously, I'm sure the same as both states, but a lot more guidelines we have to follow with the masks. We have to sanitize, right? We have to not touch anything. We have to post the guidelines on the front doors of all of our properties. We have to have disposable duties for every person that enters the property. So that's something that our brokerage is making us require to do.
Which is interesting because like a year ago, if you had asked a brokerage, like, should you make people wear booties in a house, they'd say no because it's slip and fall.
We had an incident where someone in our company
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
And the buyer fell and slipped from it and sued the owner and won. And so for the longest time, I know it's crazy, right? So for the longest time, I was like, absolutely no booties. Like, take your shoes off if you have to, but we're not wearing booties. Yeah. And so now it's like it's a requirement that we have to. So I don't know. It's a learning process, and we have to obviously sign the P form and have it fully executed before the buyers can enter the property. So.
And how are sellers feeling now in your market? Are there a lot more listings? How does that compare to pre-shelter? And then if you can also share about the demand aspect. Christine mentioned the demand aspect was, certainly has picked up tremendously. How are those levels compared to pre-shelter these days?
Right. So pre-shelter, it was, it was wild over here. We had lower inventory compared to a year ago. I would say, again, it paused temporarily for the month of April, and now it's hot again. We have a lot less inventory than we did last year. The demand is still up. Interest rates are still low. So a lot of buyers that I had that were sitting on the fence all of last year are now texting me trying to, find properties to move into finally. But I would say that it's a hot market down here. The days on market is about half of what it was last year also for listings. So
it's a little cooler in the higher price point,
right?
Just because of the absence of the jumbo loan. But that'll come back, and when that does, we think the market will come back with it.
Yeah.
Interesting. And Christine, Chau, for listings wise, like where is that at current levels? If you ran it recently, just like how is that fair than before?
Yeah, I mean, sellers want to sell their homes, right? There's buyers that want to buy properties, and so we just got to make it work. But I think in April, the numbers was about 30% down, and so now it's trending down, so we're at 10%, right? And so I think things are going back to normal really quickly in Austin. I mean, we have a really resilient market and it's super strong. Everybody wants to be in Austin. It's still a great place to invest, and so I mean, I think we're doing great.
Interesting. Do you see any trends at all? Because I know downtown Austin is, clearly a very nice spot. A lot of younger people want to move and live there, but do you see less interest there given the dynamics?
Well, I mean, I think Austin, downtown is always going to be a hot spot, right? I mean, that's where a lot of our, famous 6th Street, the bars, is, everybody wants to be down there. But, recently, with all my suburbia and a part of North Austin, I mean, those are flying off the rack, right? I think people are still wanting to be close to downtown, but a lot of the millennials are moving further north. And, even with offices, I mean, people are working from home, right? And so I'm sure they're trying to make some changes to where they're going to practice social distancing and have some more of a open space. And I can see office buildings, whenever their leases are up or close up, they're making that transition to kind of get away from downtown. Sure.
Interesting. And what about in the OC? I know in SoCal, downtown LA is a big hub for office buildings, and that certainly has gone through a lot of changes. But are there like these kind of downtown areas around Orange County, or is it mostly suburbia in general?
You take offense to the word suburbia.
It's not.
We've got a couple major kind of business centers.
Right.
We've got Fashion Island. It's where PIMCO is headquartered. It's Fashion Island's actually the home of one of the original hedge funds. So like we have a pretty robust financial segment. Amazon's got a high rise down here. Facebook bought Oculus VR, which is an Irvine company. So we have these little pockets. There's Fashion Island in Newport Beach, a bunch of high rises around one of the most beautiful malls in the world. If you haven't been there, go there. Not a commercial. It's just that awesome. There's the Irvine Business Complex, which is the airport area. There's Irvine Spectrum. All of these are like Class A offices. Alicia Viejo's got some stuff. And then down in San Diego, you've got some great office space in downtown and La Jolla.
But it doesn't live like downtown LA at all.
Right.
You know, spread out enough, but there are major hubs. So we get the,
Are there a lot of homes and condos around there, or is it mostly just commercial space? So people do have to drive to get there.
If you live in Orange County, you
gotta drive. Yeah, you gotta drive just about anywhere.
There are condos and there are some apartments, but definitely not enough to supply the workforce for those office buildings.
Right.
One of the great things, so there's certain markets, and Laguna Beach is one of the greatest places to live in the entire world. And there's some people, executives of large Fortune 500 companies who have their headquarters in Irvine because it's like a 5-10 minute drive to their home in Laguna Beach. And that's one of the things that I think attracts some of the companies that we have down here is they have these really unique opportunities to live in really great places.
Nice. And Christine, Chau, have you done anything that was different during the shelter in place? And is there any like new practices that you've learned or started to develop that you think this is going to be the new norm of how real estate transactions are going to be? Love to hear that.
Sure. I'll be honest with you. I mean, this whole Zoom and virtual, I mean, it's been around for so long, but each time someone gave me an option, hey, let's Zoom or dial in, I always dial it in, right? And so now it's not really an option, you know, you have to get on. But so for me, that was my thing, was hopping on Zoom, doing something virtual, because I was, you know, Monday through Friday, at least 4 or 5 times a week, I always offered lunch. I always had a business lunch, and that was always face-to-face. And then in one week, I probably have like 2-3 maybe happy hours or, you know, events that I attend, networking events, you know. So my business was really in person, right? And so for me, the Zoom and just being virtual and doing the 3Ds, I mean, that for me, that's the difference, yeah.
Got it. And Christine and Daniel, how about you guys? Was there any new processes that you guys had implemented or learned about over the last 2 months that you think will be bigger moving forward, or you think just kind of moving forward, it will kind of go back to what it was before?
Virtual tours.
Yeah, I think the virtual tour and being able to, because we have that 3D Matterport, and that's what most people view properties with first. And it is very, I mean, I found this out the other day. I didn't know, but I have a client, he's an engineer, and we had already gone to view the property, and we needed to go back again, or I suggested, okay, let's measure a space to add in a dishwasher. And he was like, oh, I can just do it on the Matterport. And I had no idea you could do that. He literally went in, like was able to walk the house again, took the measurements, and I was like, oh my gosh, had no idea that was a feature. So having those at the tip of our hands now, being able to even go measure a property without ever having to go to it is crazy to me. And I think that's going to change the way people do their initial showings, where they can see it online. They don't actually have to go view the house. And we've had agents in Orange County, and I'm sure where you are too, who have put home transactions and sales together without ever having to go, you know, to the actual house. So it's pretty wild. I mean, the Zoom meetings too. We did a buyer consultation the other day via Zoom because we didn't want to meet in person. It was the buyer that actually initiated it. So I think there's going to be some changes. You know, house viewings and inspections will remain the same, but even our offices, our brokers shut down all of our offices where we can't even enter. So they changed out all the keys. They're asking us not to do print marketing anymore. It's all digital. So I think that could change for, I don't know, forever, maybe.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how this impacts people's, at least from an investor's perspective. A lot of people like to be able to see stuff, touch it. So like it brings into their own market. And now as people are getting more comfortable with Matterport and 3D tours, is that going to open up people's desire to invest in from Orange County to invest in Austin without having to fly out there, to see every single property? Maybe you do a Matterport on 10, 15 homes in different neighborhoods, and then you fly out to Austin and you meet with Christine, a total trigger then, or maybe you just never go.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Interesting. Is there anything at either of your brokerages that have done things to make these changes? Because I know now, the whole model in the past of going into an office is not available and won't be available for some time. Has a broker started making any sort of changes too on their end that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, they shut everything down.
well, positive changes, I mean. As in, is there anything that they're doing to adapt with these times, or
changed all of our locks, so we can't go in now. So I mean, we've been doing just a number of Zoom meetings pretty much every day. We've got like a whole rollout of 4 different events throughout the day. And we're in an international brokerage. So I think they're a little more serious about it, even on the West Coast, because our main headquarters are in New York. So they got hit so bad up there with the environment, and we weren't as impacted, obviously, with coronavirus in terms of numbers, but because they were, it bled over into, I think, our offices here. So, I mean, the Zoom calls are pretty cool. You can just I don't even use the video feature. So I just roll out of bed and, call in and get to do a whole office meeting without having ever to be seen. So it's kind of nice.
Nice. What are those topics? Is it just updates? Is it procedures? What are the themes of these meetings?
It's all sorts of things. A lot of it, they start with a morning role play, just back and forth role play. And then a lot of times if the Department of Real Estate rolls out any new procedures, we go over all of that. We go over changes in the documents that we have to now sign and all the just addendums that are added. And then just as a nation, that we have a lot of calls with the New York executives over there and what they're seeing, just so we can kind of what you're doing, just get information from across the states, which is very cool.
Interesting. Okay. Christine, anything on your end from the brokerage you're with? Is any changes?
Sure. Yeah, well, I own my own brokerage, and I have a home office. I have about 4 agents, and so they're already kind of working from home, and so not a lot of changes. But I'm part of Austin Board of Realtors, and we have such an awesome association where they're always constantly, they have such a great relationship where they always have constantly updates. They put out market trends for you. I mean, they make us agents look like a superstar, There's always updates. There's always different articles that they keep us informed, so we can inform our clients too. So we're very lucky to have them. So. Mm-hmm.
Nice. And love to get your predictions of what you guys kind of see moving forward. Sounds like, at least in the short term, it seems really interesting, right? I mean, while listings seem to be going up, but buyer demand is still very strong. How do you guys see the summer play out? And if there's any kind of thoughts of what you guys think of the end of the year? Christine, Chau, why don't you go first?
Sure. I think with COVID, it's like a pause, right? A couple of months pause where nothing really happened. And so now I think in Austin, we're going to end up very strong. We're going to have a very strong spring. I feel like we're going to have a strong winter. I think it's going to go all the way down, to the end of 2021. And then maybe there might be some good opportunities, right, to purchase more investment properties. But I think it's going to be very strong. I mean, we have really low unemployment in Austin. It's about 3.5. The national average is 14.7. We have all the tech here that's continuing to grow and have the headquarters here. And so, yeah, we're going to have a very strong year.
Cool.
At the end of next year. So. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And Christine and Daniel?
I think
kind of predictions.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about the rest of the year. We're currently in escrow on 2 multifamily deals, and with ourselves and partners and a ground up development in LA. There's definitely some market risk, but if the deals are structured right, you can insulate yourself from that. I think the two big variables that we're keeping an eye on are going to be CARES Act round 4 and interest rates. Orange County and all of California, at least all of coastal California, so supply constrained. I have a lot of investors that use lines of credit, and they have lines of credit now down at like 2%. You can buy a 3 cap and make money with a 2% line of credit. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the capital markets open back up for jumbo and commercial. That right now it's a little constrained, but there's just debt's so cheap. It's going to be even cheaper when things calm down a little bit as spreads come down over the different indices. So I don't see a huge pullback of any sort, just because again it's so supply constrained and then just cheap debt. There will be ways to lose money, but there's definitely going to be ways to make money if you find the right deal with the right value add opportunities. And then I think on the transactional side, what do you think? Things will thaw up and.
It's one actually really interesting thing I was just thinking about is how a few of the buyers that we've recently met are all engaged and were set to get married this summer or fall or winter. Because they can't get married anymore, they're making a move sooner now to buy their next step up home or their first home. So it's something that they were waiting to do after they were going to get married. And it's quite a handful of them that I've seen do this. So, I mean, that could be the next trend too, is like people actually have their wedding, unfortunately. One couple, but it's a good opportunity.
Decided to buy a house instead of get married because you can't get married
now. So.
Right. That's interesting.
just waiting a bit.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Daniel, can you actually share about that multifamily, those two that you're in? Like, were they distressed by any means, or is this like,
it's a part of it.
Yeah.
We've got a couple pretty big clients. One of them's a real estate private equity company. It's got close to $1 billion under management. So they brought this deal to us, asked us to be the operator on it.
I see.
So this is a part of a bigger portfolio. One of them's in just a great market, been mismanaged. So it's really just a straightforward value add, re-tenanting, do some renovations and re-tenant the building over time. Another one is a little bit more interesting. For those of you in California, you may or may not know, but on January 1st, they passed a new ADU law that allows you to build by right. So you were able to build ADU units in certain markets before. There's all these restrictions. Now statewide, you can build ADU units up to 1,200 square feet. You can do 2 of them on multifamily properties. So one of them, it's a small fourplex, but it has about 8,000 square feet of additional land. So we're going to be closing on that and then building 2 additional ADU units on it and then doing a value add to the front of it. So they both have value add stories, but we're not just buying a straight just a cap rate deal or anything like that. So
interesting. That is interesting. It's good that those larger projects are still moving. Do you see actually more the larger private equity players? Because I know I think it was Blackstone may have just raised another $3.5 billion or something, some really large number, another fund. I think geared towards single family. Have you seen any of that play out just yet, or is that just they're just getting ready?
They can't play in our market. They can't play in Austin. They play in mostly places that you and I haven't heard of, where your cash on cash returns are bigger. I do think that there will be some move into more core markets on both the single family and what I've generally referred to as private capital apartment deals. But there's just not enough yield there for a Blackstone to get involved in Orange County. We've talked to groups who've tried to do it before, and we're like, well, we're happy to show you, but you're not going to buy anything.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can't buy a house and get a 10% cash on cash return.
Right. No. Got it. Yeah. And Christine Chau, are there iBuyers in your market? Did they ever come in? And are they still active?
Yes, they did come to our market. I don't think they're a big factor for us, right? For April and for a little while, there was no listings. I think everybody kind of they kind of pulled out of it, right? But I actually I just did one recently, a cash buyer with semi buyers, and so I don't think it's a big factor in Austin. Mm-mm.
Like what is the iBuyer company out in your area?
Open Door. Mm-hmm.
Is it just that one, or is there a couple of them out there? From what you've seen,
of them, but I can't remember their names at this point for some reason.
Oh yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, and then Christina and Daniel, I don't think iBuyers are in SoCal, right?
They're trying to be.
They're trying to be. Oh, interesting.
Like if you go on Zillow or Redfin, you'll see like get an offer, but I don't think anyone's. I haven't heard of anyone selling to Zillow or Redfin. Open Door is not out here yet.
I think Open Door might have been here for like a hot second,
short time,
and then they were gone. Those don't work as well over here either, and I don't think we're impacted really.
It's not to say they can't figure it out. They just haven't figured out our market yet.
Yeah. Got it. And then maybe my last question would be, we talked about kind of the core areas, so whether it's Austin or Orange County in general, are there specific cities around there that are very interesting they're growing really fast because a lot of economic development is there? Like maybe Christine, Chau, you can go first. I mean, Austin is, sure. I know South Side has been developing, North Side has been developing, everywhere has been developing. So where are you kind of the most bullish, or there's most interesting activity from what you've seen?
Sure. In Austin, I mean, for cash flow is probably not in Austin. And so actually I think you have a bunch of choices because all around of Austin, there's Pflugerville with the Amazon warehouse is going through. We have Brown Rock, which has Dell. We have Huddle that I heard there's a rumor that Tesla is going to have a factory there. We have Buda. I mean, I think outside of Austin, you're going to find some good opportunities to invest in that's still going to have cash flow, and you're still going to have appreciation. I mean, not as strong as Austin, of course, but I mean, if you want cash flow and appreciation, I think outside of Austin is going to have some opportunities. So,
got it. Interesting. And Christina and Daniel, how about you guys? Any interesting cities that are on the rise or they're doing a lot of economic development?
We're really bullish on our particular city, Costa Mesa. But I think the same thesis applies to anywhere in Orange County where there's older home stock that's generally well located. No one invests in Southern California for cash flow specifically. It's going to be a total return. So you're going to want, if it's a single family home, you're going to want something that was built in the 50s with a kitchen where a woman's not to be seen or heard, and you can close the door on it. Now you can like clean it up and make it more modern. So anywhere that's kind of well located and close to jobs, I think, like with older home stock that has decent schools, and there's a bunch of little markets around here. Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach, parts of Mountain Valley, parts of Westminster, parts of Tustin, parts of Santa Ana.
Right.
Interesting.
Southern California is all one kind of city. You can't really, unless there's something if you don't know if you
crossed over.
Yeah, you're not sure if you crossed over. Is there a lot of? It sounds like Costa Mesa probably has a lot of renovations happening for what you just described.
Yeah, tons. And the thing about Costa Mesa, where we live, is we're so beach close. We're like a couple miles from the beach, but we're not paying the Newport Beach prices. And there's so many job centers around Newport Beach and Irvine, and Costa Mesa is it's turning into a very like hipster city.
I think we've matured past the hipster city. I think hipster city is what happens first. That brings them good restaurants and things like that.
Yeah, okay. Like we've got all of it now.
It's established.
Costa Mesa, I think it's like trademark capital of cool.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Really cool developer out here. He used to be the president of Quicksilver. He built these fairly famous retail centers, the Lab, the Camp. He's done a bunch of these things that are really kitschy, really cool, and they just have so much personality. And there's not a lot of personality in Costa Mesa, in Orange County. Costa Mesa is one of the few places that has. We have good restaurants. We got art. We got all of those things. And then you're 4 miles from the beach. You can hop on one of 3 freeways and be anywhere in Orange County or South.
We're super central.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
I can take a $8 Uber to John Wayne Airport and be in San Francisco in an hour and 8 minutes.
Interesting, right? Well, I didn't ask you guys this, but I think it'll be helpful for everyone to know, like, what is the average price point in that market? So whether it's a condo, are there townhomes in Costa Mesa too, or is it not so much?
There's tons.
We got townhomes.
Okay.
We got it all.
Yeah, we don't have it at all.
Well, most of it.
Yeah, and then I'll have Christine Chau. You want to go first of just generally, what it is in downtown Austin, and then what it is in Round Rock.
Sure. I mean, I think like downtown, you're probably looking at close to 300, 350. And then as you get further outside of Austin, you're probably looking at, 180.
Wow.
Some parts 150, not too bad.
Dang. Okay. Is that missing a zero in there? Or what? Dang. Okay.
I mean, is that good?
Dang. Okay. Oh wow. Okay. And yeah, Christine and Daniel, like I know there's a lot of cities all around, but I'd love to hear what Newport Beach might be, that kind of the average there, and then Irvine and other areas.
Let me also pull up Irvine.
Yeah. Sure. No worries.
For Costa Mesa, we're an average about 870,000. But that's, from houses to small studio condos,
We've got, a condo that you can probably buy a condo here for what,
600,000.
And then like the high end,
minimum.
the high end could be what, 2 million, 3 million?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it's range. So as I say, if your head's in the fire and your feet are up on the ice, on average, you're fine. So that average number in Costa Mesa doesn't really tell you a whole lot.
Yeah.
But you can get like a ranch style home that needs a lot of work, 1,500 square feet for
800.
For about 800.
So.
Okay.
And Irvine it's about the same. It's not pretty much head to head with Costa Mesa in terms of overall values and medium sale price. And then Newport Beach, because it is Newport Beach, one of the higher, per square foot, they're at about 1.8 million on average. And
are there a lot of condos there, or that's mostly single family? And that there still is.
No, they don't.
Oh,
interesting.
interesting.
Do they have a lot of multifamily?
There's the multifamily.
Yeah.
Like if you go down on the peninsula, there's like 2 and 4 unit multifamily things,
Right.
but those are like,
Couple
it's too
million.
expensive.
Yeah.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, so there is some multifamily, but not like all the multifamily is really expensive.
Right. But because you're on the water.
There is some up on the hill too.
Yeah.
Not a ton, but some too.
Interesting. And the Irvine is mostly newer as well. It is a planned development area. Is that correct? Or
it is, yeah, but it's kind of split. So there's 2 parts of Irvine. There's the part closer to the 405 freeway, which is kind of neighboring Costa Mesa and Newport. So that's the older Irvine area by UC Irvine. Those were built in like the 60s, 70s. And those are actually quite expensive. I would say the established parts of Irvine, like Turtle Rock, are a big, like call it a 2,500, 3,000 square foot home will sell for close to 2 million to 3 million. And then so then there's East Irvine, which is more of the new development built after 2000. And there's a lot of them. They're still building it. Actually, Daniel was part of, if you want to talk about
the same company that did
Hunters Point.
Hunters Point in Kansas Park has a master plan in Irvine called
the Great Park.
The Great Park, yeah, and that's like 15,000 homes and 5-point amphitheater, and it's kind of
they're putting like a water park there and all
really
crazy stuff.
How far is that down the process right now? Like, have they started, or is it?
Yeah, they're much further along than they are on that project than they are on Hunters Point in Kansas. So it's a lot faster to do stuff down here than in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And so that one was an old Marine Air Base. They've probably built close to, I don't want to guess, but 5,000, 8,000 homes.
There. Oh, wow.
It's all of these business plans are like 20, 30-year business plans. And so they're starting to develop some of the commercial stuff, I think. I haven't tracked it that closely because I haven't been with them in a long time. But east of the
all the East Irvine products.
it's denser.
It's a lot denser. You have almost no yards, and they're infamous, I guess, for their Melrose tax.
Yeah.
So you've got an added tax on top of your property taxes. Any HOA fees is an additional tax to build out new schools for the area, new sewer lines, electrical lines, et cetera, et cetera. And that's usually their direct assessments and their bonds that last up to 40 years. So just as long as you're buying a property in East Irvine, you can assume you have to pay that tax.
Yeah.
How much is that typically? Like, is it hundreds a month, or is it?
There is no typically there.
Yeah. Call it 1.8% on average.
Yeah, that's probably about
for your total.
Okay.
Yeah, but some of the older so there's two main developers. There's 5 Point Communities, who I used to work for. They do a phenomenal job. I have nothing but great things to say about them. And then the Irvine company, who's basically the inventor of master plan communities. So the Irvine company's been around forever. Some of their older projects east of the 405 and 5 have the lower tax rates. All the newer stuff, though, they have to build roads. They have to pay for all of those for all the infrastructure. So you are getting something for your money. It's not a profit center for the developer. It pays for the schools. It pays for all the great amenities. They're building a massive park that's twice the size of Central Park in the middle of it.
Interesting. And Irvine has, I believe, very good public school systems too, right?
One of the best. Yeah, in Southern California.
Oh, interesting. Got it. Well, very good. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. So thank you guys for joining. I mean, I'm sure the audience had learned a lot about the respective areas. So Christine, Chau, how can people get a hold of you? And I'll have your details also in the description too. But what's the best way of people getting a hold of you?
Best way is actually probably texting. I mean, you definitely call, but I do get a lot of phone calls but my telephone number is 512-293-2700 or my website, TexasUrbanRealty.com. Thanks, Spencer.
Okay, you bet. And Christina and Daniel, how about you guys?
Text us.
What's the best way?
We love text.
Okay, you guys love text?
My number is 949-910-1042. I do have a website, but we're still in process of building it out. So I will.
Nice.
But yeah, thank you so much, Spencer, for having us. It was actually a really fun video conference.
There you go. Well, thank you guys for your time. Like I said, I'm sure a lot of people learned a lot. That's why I do these sessions. They get to, especially people either from the Bay Area or from all over, get to really learn more in depth of what's going on and talking to some of the top agents. So thank you guys again. And quick housekeeping item. So next week I'll have Eric from Maryland that'll be participating. So it'll be interesting to see from I think he's doing like Maryland and Virginia. So a lot of government types of industry. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and what's going on in that market. But we'll wrap it up. Thank you guys again for joining, and see you at the next one. Hey, YouTube world. Thanks for tuning in. I'm glad that you dropped by. If you liked this video, please be sure to smash this subscribe button here. And if you want to see one of my latest videos, please choose this one here. Bye now.